appreciate the look of your neighbor's garden gnomes, you hire the Part-Time Henchmen. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
Casey.
As you can tell, evil is kind of relative around here. How are you guys doing?
Taxed for time.
Okay.
Yes. Time is at a premium right now. I feel like I've been multitasking since last week.
I was about to say, I think that's one of the few things that weren't attempted to be covered in the recent tax cuts.
Yeah, sadly.
Joanna, what about you?
It was actually a bearable Monday. Can you believe it?
Oh, wow. What happened? What leprechaun did you run over? I mean, come on.
No, it's just that it wasn't horrible. Okay.
And here we go. Here's the sliding scale.
Well, I was halfway through my piece of toast and I looked down and there's mold on the rest of it. I was like, oh. Great.
That's the worst.
That made it through the toaster before you found it?
Yeah, I was kind of in a rush this morning. It's Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I was like scarfing down the toast, buttered toast, and then just gulp some coffee kind of thing as I'm throwing clothes on and getting my cats fed and all that. So I didn't even, I guess, register anything until I looked down and I stopped a second. I'm like, what is the... Oh, no. So that's how my day started.
She sat there wondering if they've gone Australian. I don't remember buying Vegemite. The frick is this?
Right. Yeah, no, that stuff is nasty. The day could only go up from there, so it did. So it's kind of... You did
set the bar kind of low at the very beginning there.
It's better than having a great morning and then getting to work and something horrible happening.
I suppose that's true.
Or walking out to the car and seeing a flat tire like 2 weeks ago I went through.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say it's been that interesting. The past weekend I've basically spent cleaning and pre-packing, really, because I don't like to take trips and pack the night before. That's the easiest way to forget just about anything, really.
Right.
So I've just been making my preparations for San Diego Comic-Con, from the clothes to the hotel to what gear I need to protect what I might buy, because nothing is guaranteed. And, everybody keeps talking about me, and they keep asking me all these questions about my preparation like I'm some kind of old world general who's reliving his glory days. Do you have this? Have you gotten through this? What's your plan to get this? It's like, Jesus Christ, when did I turn into the ghetto tour guide? What happened? So,
experience happened?
I suppose. So it's just been nonstop, on top of which I'm still trying to get in workouts and make sure bills are paid and, double check on all this other garbage. But that's neither here nor there. Because trust me, in about a week and a half, we're all going to end up talking about the kind of hellscape I went through.
Woohoo, sounds like fun.
The subject of
this... As long as I get my souvenir.
You know what? You keep talking to me like that, you're going to find it at the back of my list, man.
So does that mean my request is moved up?
Yeah, it's moved up a bit, yeah.
Please.
I'm okay with that.
Hey, you're going to ask a guy for a favor. You got to do the due diligence and kiss his butt for a little while at least.
I regret this decision.
The subject of this week is DC Comics miniseries No Justice. We'll get to that after the news of the week, and it may seem a little bit long this week, but that's only because I've shoved in the last day's worth of important news. I mean, we're going to be off next Monday because I'm going to be not at Comic-Con, but probably recovering from it. I'm not going to be in much of a mood to talk. We'll start with Marvel comic news. These are the properties that are owned by Disney and their storylines that are coming out now and in the near future. The upcoming event, Infinity Wars, we talked about one of the side effects, the warps, or the warped, where several characters are getting mashed up. Well, yes. There's another thing coming out of that, but it's not a mashup. It's a Marvel character who hasn't been seen terribly often since the 90s. There's going to be a special one-shot in October that's going to have Chad Bowers and Chris Sims writing, and the art's going to be by Todd Knock. It's going to be called Infinity Wars Sleepwalker, a 4-issue miniseries.
4 issues they dedicate to this.
Yeah, to the Sleepwalker. And Joanna, Joanna, how much do you know about the Sleepwalker?
I've heard the name maybe 4 times in my life.
It's one of those things it's an ambitious concept, but I don't think anyone has figured out what to do with it since it was created. Basically, you have a person, and I don't remember his name, But every time he falls asleep, his body turns into a gateway where this creature from the dream dimension, like a guardian of people's dreamscapes called a sleepwalker, can suddenly walk in the real world. And he has all these reality warping abilities, but he can only be in the real world while his human bridge is asleep. I mean, you got a character who has the power to rewrite reality, and his only weakness is whether or not his human being has taken enough Ambien.
Yeah,
boy.
and not exactly the most dynamic character design, let me tell you.
No, he looks like he almost looks like a human version of one of the gray alien concept arts with a purple hood and cape and like a blue leotard. That's the long and short of his design.
Whoever put him together put no thought into it whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know how it got past editorial, but then again, it was the 90s, and I'm pretty sure everybody was coked out of their minds.
Well, look, Chris Sims and Chad Bowers have written some pretty good stuff recently, and Todd Knock, I've met the man at a number of conventions. He's super friendly, a great guy, and a pretty damn good artist. I would just like to know who made this pitch to Marvel that was so compelling. They said, you know what? Yeah, we'll give a few issues to the Sleepwalker again.
Or somebody was contractually bound to crank out 4 issues of XXX, unnamed comic here, XXX.
This smells like a lost bet to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is one of those days where C.B. Cebulski was really drunk and they decided to just throw the pitch out while he couldn't see straight.
Yeah, I think, actually, now I'm thinking about it, during this very podcast, I think I figured out why. This is Marvel retaining the copyright.
Well, that's one aspect to it. I mean, they could have just used the character as a one-off or cameo in another book to retain the copyright.
You know, I still say that's what's going on here.
Okay.
I think that it's a retention of the copyright, and it's also a Hail Mary to see if they can actually get anything out of it.
Well, one character who's copyright secure but is having a problem is the Punisher.
Oh?
Yeah, this doesn't have to do with his recent ongoing series. This has to do with a new #1 in series that was supposed to begin in August, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, I think I saw us listed on that.
Yeah, there's
no armor for him.
Well, he's not armored anymore. He's still going after big game, just like the leaders of Hydra, and up at that level. The problem is, though, is that the artist has recently been replaced. The artist solicited was Riccardo Bercelli. He's been replaced by Simon? Szymon Kurdansky. And because of this change, production has had to change its schedule, and the first issue has been pushed from August 1st to August 22nd, and the second issue is now coming out September 26th. There's no reason for this change that's been given.
Probably, maybe we gotta switch artists, switch writers. I don't know.
Well, like I said, they switched.
Having a
Like I said, they
problem.
switched artists from Riccardo Bercelli to Szymon Kurdansky. I just don't know why Bercelli's off this. I mean, we've seen before that some artists get changed because they're not working up to snuff. A few others, they've had personal issues. They just plain have family issues and they can't do what they promised to do, so they got to find somebody else.
Maybe Marvel learned from Punisher War Machine.
Well, that was another guy. That was that not Ricardo Lopez Ortiz. I think that was somebody else, but I don't recognize the name.
No,
of,
I get the
Simon
fact
here.
that it's a different guy, but I'm just saying that, like you said, if the guy's not up to snuff, maybe somebody in editorial is reacting faster than usual.
Well, couldn't say for sure. New announcements this week are 2 new Spider series coming out. Marvel Comics released a trailer for the new series, The Superior Octopus.
Excited about it.
I'm of mixed minds about it.
I love the costume design on this.
This gets slightly complicated, so follow me through here. This has to do with Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus, who is now living inside a cloned body of Peter Parker and is wearing an outfit that looks like a gray and black version of the Iron Spider armor.
Wait, what?
Not the Iron Spider armor, the Superior Spider-Man outfit.
I think... I like Joanna's reaction, as if to say, when does he grow the goatee so his evil twin comes in? What the hell?
This is actually the outfit that he took over when Hydra Cap was running everything, and Ock put together the Avengers team that he did, which is basically full of villains and him.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep it simple.
Yeah. He's still Doc Ock, but he's got Spider-Man's life experiences, so he's got his ideals about right and wrong and the life lessons that he's taken. So even though he's still him, there's a big altruistic streak in him now.
Well, at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 800, he'd also apparently been trying to go into hiding. He was using an alias of Elliot Tolliver and was teaching at Horizon University.
Yeah, yeah. I like the story. I've been liking Otto's story since Superior Spider-Man, and I'm not usually big on that kind of vast paradigm shifts on major heroes. I usually just kind of sit them out because most of them are boring. This one wasn't. This one was really captivating, and as much as I love redemption stories, I'm totally in on this.
What we've just seen is Casey can actually enjoy a book if he stretches outside his narrow view of fun.
Hey, it's called taste.
Yeah. Well, I didn't accuse you of having any. I just said narrow view.
Anyway, so we were going to talk about the other title, Ghost Spider.
No, actually, I was going to say that the Superior Octopus, the first issue, is supposed to come out in October, which Marvel is calling Doc October.
Yeah, I saw that. Groan-worthy. Moving on.
Very. Very.
Spider-Gwen...
I'm definitely in.
Spider-Gwen's original series is also coming to an end soon, and also debuting in October is her new series of Ghost Spider. There is a little bit of a question as to what's going on here, because this Gwen Stacy is from an alternative universe where she was bitten by the radioactive spider, not Peter Parker. However, given that her own series is ending, there's a little bit of confusion as to whether or not the Ghost Spider here, aka Spider-Gwen, is joining the 616 proper or staying in her home dimension.
That's a very good question. I think the Earth that she is from is Earth 61, and there's a lot of story elements there that are still unmined.
Yeah, it's either 61 or 65. I can't say which.
I think it's 61. I've been following the book for a while, and I do know that she's got a jumper from her times from the Spider-Verse, so she goes between both universes fairly easily. So they could still retain her living in Earth 61 and having her adventures here if they get her a decent story hook.
Yeah, well, it turns out that Spider-Gwen 34, the last issue, is actually being released this week, July 18th. Cool. Oh, according to the story on CBR, she is from Earth 65. Okay.
Oh, well, I stand corrected.
But more details may be coming up soon, and if you're looking for updates on DVS's website, that'll be up to Casey, since I'll be walking around and trying to gather favors, apparently. But
yes,
it is.
I will indeed be reporting on Comic-Con while you're actually experiencing it and having fun at it.
Well, actually, I was going to say they're going to read your words before they hear mine, simply because there's a panel that's expected to have more information on the new Ghost Spider series this Friday, July 20th, 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. in Room 5AB at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep, I'm going to be all over that.
Marvel Comics has also announced that the Fantastic Four will not be housed in the Baxter Building when they return.
They're going to go to the Four Freedoms Plaza?
Well, technically both buildings were the same location, just different constructions. The thing is, though, because of what's happened in Marvel Comics since the Fantastic Four were unavailable after Secret Wars, the Baxter Building is unavailable to them. See, what happened was, after Secret Wars, Peter Parker found out what Dr. Octopus had been doing in his body, and he set up Parker Industries with the windfalls he had gotten as a result. And Parker Industries was based in the Baxter Building. In more recent months, Parker Industries has collapsed. Peter Parker has sold the Baxter Building to another party that was creating some kind of scientific initiative out of it. So the Baxter Building has new tenants. The Fantastic Four can't just show up and say, "Hey, mine."
Why not?
So are the new tents going to be part of the storyline?
No. According to a story that was released on CBR, the Fantastic Four are going to have a brand new headquarters very befitting their status of Marvel's first family.
Huh. I wonder what that means.
I don't know. Some people are speculating right now it could be somewhere in the negative zone or another cosmic destination, considering Susan and Reed Richards are multidimensional right now.
True, but the wording of it makes me feel like they're going to take up a prominent place inside New York.
Considering what's happened to Marvel's version of New York, including Inhuman ships, it wouldn't surprise me if the Fantastic Four had some kind of floating building over the city.
Yeah, I'd ship that, literally.
You know, it's a goofy guess, but it wouldn't be very far off what they've been capable of.
Remember when X Factor's ship just stood up and turned itself into a building?
Dude, that lit up my tiny teenage brain back in the 80s, man. I thought that was awesome.
Oh my god, it's not unknown for heroes just to go, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm doing. Because isn't that what the X-Men are doing? They just fucking landed in the middle of Central Park and go, we're here.
Well,
We're in Central Park now.
the X-Men's concept was slightly more complicated because that's Kitty Pryde's version of, look, we can't live apart, we have to live with them, so we might as well put ourselves somewhere where everybody can have access.
Right.
You know, that's more of a public relations thing. In terms of what happened with X Factor, it was more like their sentient ship just said, look, we might as well have something befitting of your status as, like, you know, Marvel's family of mutants right here in New York City, and decided to just turn up on its end, turn into basically a tower in the sky and emblazon itself with an X, which is both a proud moment and something where most supervillains are probably saying, you know, I think I can hit that.
Yeah. God, I wonder where they got the empty lot on New York City to do that.
Right?
I don't think it ever touched down. It was just floating above the city. It was Apocalypse's ship based on celestial tech.
I thought it actually planted itself like a plant plants. It planted.
No, I remember during the Whilce Portacio era, it was standing upright, they were attacked, and the ship crashed. I think into the
definitely
river.
got to revisit this. We're talking some 80s, or is it 90s? It was 90s.
It was probably 90s.
Yeah, it was definitely during the Cyclops white and blue outfit time.
Into the blue and gold time.
Yep.
Let's see. Marvel is also bringing back a fan favorite concept in the form of the what ifs.
I'm really excited about that.
I miss when What Ifs was a series, not just like a special one-shots every other year. But,
yeah.
Joanna, do you know what What Ifs are?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Only vaguely.
What Ifs are basically the outer limits or the Black Mirror of the Marvel Universe. It's more like we know how the Marvel Universe turned out based on its current stories, but the What Ifs are basically stepping back a couple months or a couple years and saying, what if this turned out differently from this? A good example would be, what if the X-Men lost Inferno when the world was turned to a hellscape? If they lost, what would the world become? Things like that.
Cool.
In this case, there is a series of 6 one-shots that have been announced for later this year. The first one is, what if Flash Thompson was Spider-Man?
I saw the front page of that, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, but wasn't he wearing the Punisher's skull?
No, he wasn't. There's actually a what if the Punisher became Spider-Man.
That's a tired concept.
Well, I'm a little confused with their X-Men one. What if the X-Men lived in a digital world? What?
Really? You get the opportunity to do a new what if on X-Men and that's what you came up with?
That's a light concept, unless you're telling me this is what if the X-Men lived in Tron or something.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm gonna be skeptical about that one. What else we got?
What if the Ghost Rider existed in the real world? Dude, if the spirit of vengeance lived in the real world, the White House would have burst into flame 8 times over.
Oh, God,
Most of that seaboard would.
What if Thor, Odin's son, was adopted by the Frost Giants instead of Loki adopted by the Asgardians?
Huh.
He would still wreck stuff.
Probably, but he
That would
wouldn't
be
have
fun
that
for a
hammer.
Thor fan.
His story would actually turn out pretty different. He wouldn't ever have access to that hammer, and that would change the history of Marvel Comics, really, in its entirety. And finally, what if magic could harness her powers without complication or drama?
Is that really the title?
That's not the full title. It's just called What If Magic. But the story is, what if her powers developed without her demonic brainwashing?
Oh, without the Magic Limited series where Belasco took her in?
Yeah, in other words,
That's a good question.
if she was allowed to grow as a mutant teleporter in addition to her magical abilities, what would she become?
Huh. I mean,
Interesting.
it's my understanding that she had the magical abilities because Belasco trained her, not because of any innate ability.
Well, I don't know if that's true. It may have been one of those things that was soft retcon because, what's her name? When Magic was trying to regain the Soul Stones in her Soul Sword, she needed somebody with some magical ability, and she ended up latching on to Pixie. So the picking of magic may have had to do with some kind of innate ability. Mr. and Mrs. X, we're finally getting some new details as to what's going on with this new series. Is it a series or is it a mini? I think it's an ongoing series, actually.
What is it?
Mr. and Mrs. X.
I think that's an ongoing.
Yeah, that is the new series detailing Rogue and Gambit's ongoing adventures as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Their first mission, they're going to have to deliver a package, and it turns out that package is alive.
Wait, what?
The package is alive. For some reason, they're in outer space, complete with new battle armor, and it looks like some kind of spaceship. And they have to transfer a former Shi'ar Imperial Guardsman, it looks like. Don't ask me why, but they have to... I don't know. They have to escort Cerise somewhere.
Oh, wait. What? From Excalibur?
Yeah, Cerise became an Imperial Guardsman under Lilandra's care, but Lilandra's been dead for a while. I never found out what happened to the character after that.
Yeah, I think she's been dead ever since. God, it's been a long time.
Yeah, Lilandra's
I
been
guess
dead,
Marvel
but...
really didn't need her.
Well, Cerise's story was always more complicated than that, but they never really delved into it after she was gone from the pages of Excalibur. I mean, Excalibur found out that she wasn't just some random superhuman that landed on Earth. She was actually in hiding because she's a galactic criminal. And she was on the run from the Shi'ar Empire in particular. Eventually she turned herself over to the Shi'ar, who agreed to make her an Imperial Guardsman under Lilandra's orders, simply because Cerise had proven herself to be more than just a criminal. But ever since Lilandra died, Cerise has been a big question mark to me.
Yeah, she was romantically entangled in Kurt, who is currently dating Rachel Summers or Gray. Pick one.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with either of those characters. This is Rogue and Gambit.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, what would they really do with that character?
Well, like I said, their first mission is an escort mission, so I don't know where they're taking her to even. She may not have to go back to Earth. She may have to go to somewhere else. My question is, why would Rogue and Gambit be out in space to pick her up? This sounds more like a Kitty Pryde thing.
And that's me with my wild speculation, because that story is like, eh.
Well, I'm really excited about the new teaser they've released for Extermination, the upcoming X-Men event where where the timeline's being ripped apart because of the presence of the 60s X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
Because that new teaser says in plain letters, "Set it right." But the thing that makes it special, though, is what's behind those letters. It is a single figure, it appears to be a male, that's wearing blue from head to toe, including his gloves, and he's holding a visor.
Okay.
And it's very definitely Cyclops' visor, and I'm staring at this image, and I'm realizing that I don't think Cyclops has ever worn an outfit like this before. It looks like a resurrection.
Well, I mean, they're going to revive him somehow.
No, let him die.
No, I'm totally okay with that. I mean, as far as a storyline, I thought X-Men: The End was it the end of X, or was it the death of X? One of those.
It was the Death of X miniseries.
Yeah, I thought that was a great hook.
It was
spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen it.
It was a good story, but I'm a Cyclops fan. I like the guy, and it occurred to me when I saw this teaser, I thought maybe this is just some other version from the future that's involved in all these time travel shenanigans that the X-Men are pretty much synonymous for. Wow, I'm really stumbling today. But what has occurred to me is that if they do bring him back to the current Marvel timeline, this will be the first time really since the early 90s that all 5 of the originals have been in one place in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this may be the perfect time to bring him back, just because it would really shake up the dynamic with all 5 of them in one place.
Yeah. I mean, well, all 5 of them were still alive during Grant Morris's leather jacket run. During the early double odds.
I thought Angel was unavailable.
He was alive. And he wore a jacket. I remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember him during that period. There was just 5 or 6 of them.
He actually wore a sleeveless version of it.
I don't remember that during the Morrison period. I think that was during the time there was a manga writer working on Uncanny.
You're right. It was.
I'm trying to remember.
He still had the same leather jacket motif, but he had adjusted it to fit his own style. And that's actually the creator that was in place when they transitioned from the leather jackets to the superhero costumes again.
Yeah, that was after Jean Grey died.
Ah, okay.
There's also been word as to the new X-Men series that has been floated around in solicits lately. It's being called XMen Black. A single teaser has been released, and all it involves is Magneto in his old purple and red outfit.
This is actually my first time hearing this.
I just found this news at about 2:00 today. According
Oh wow.
according to the teaser, it's going to involve what's called the Hearts of Darkness. XMen Black and maybe another team of quasi-villains trying to save mutant kind by any means necessary.
Oh well, I'll be all about that.
I know X-Force, Weapon X right now has that mission, except Weapon X or even Weapon X Force, what it's supposed to become, I have a feeling he's going to be a little more restrained than what Magneto would do if he's given his full druthers.
True. I mean, they are still working within the confines of the good guys. They still have Domino on their team, and Sabretooth is still not a complete asshat.
Well, no, I mean, Weapon X's entire mission is basically kill when necessary. X-Men Black, from what I'm gathering, would be kill just because it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't sound right. I think that there's a different premise going on there. But you know what? I don't know anything because I am just now hearing this. So,
well, yeah, there's no information as to writer or artist on X-Men Black. It has been said that X-Men Black is the series that will be talked about at the upcoming X-Men panel during the last day of San Diego Comic-Con. So,
okay, I'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah. Now we have DC comic news. We talk about the other major company and their comics and what they're planning upcoming now and in the near future. Wow, I was not expecting the announcement from G. Willow Wilson this week. I'd been talking with a few people about her because I knew she was going to show up in an independent booth at Comic-Con, and she had a project that was just TBH. She was not saying what was going on. But as of the middle of last week, she decided to let the world know that she has been tapped to be the new writer on Wonder Woman.
Cool.
Oh.
That's been backed up by DC Comics' own announcement that she will be working on the Wonder Woman ongoing series. She's going to be joined by Carrie Nord, who recently helped launch The Unexpected with Steve Orlando for the New Age of DC Heroes.
I can't say I'm a Wonder Woman fan, so...
I'm not, but G. Willow Wilson is a brilliant frickin' writer.
Oh? I have to freely admit I don't know who this person is.
G. Willow Wilson is the creator of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel.
Okay, that person. Never mind. I do know who that person is.
Jesus Christ. I'm surprised I had to draw that many lines.
You know, I think we've actually had this discussion where I scratched my head at the name again before, so it's just not one of those names that sticks.
Well, it's not Miss Wilson's first project for DC. She said in a press release recently, quote, "I'm delighted to be writing such an iconic character as Wonder Woman and to be working with DC once again. With more than 75 years of history, Wonder Woman has a wealth of backstory and drama to draw from, and I look forward to putting a spin on Diana and her supporting cast that's both new yet familiar. It'll be a challenge to do her justice, but I like a challenge, and I can't wait to get started." Unquote.
Cool.
Let's see. G. Willow Wilson, she previously worked with Sana Amanat and Adrienne Alfana. Her previous works at DC include Superman, Vixen, and The Outsiders. She also did Cairo and Air at Vertigo Comics, so she's done more than I'm aware of, really. Greg Capullo is sharing art from what he calls his last Batman project, which is kind of surprising because that's the name I think in the last decade I thought that was all Capullo did, really, was Batman books.
Well, yeah. God, I really haven't... I've only really ever seen Capullo do old X-Force stuff, Spawn, and Batman, and that's it.
Capullo was announced as replacing Sean Gordon Murphy to work with Scott Snyder on an upcoming Black Label series called Batman Last Night. It's going to be the final story, supposedly, between Snyder and Capullo working on Batman for the foreseeable future. I'm almost disappointed he's replacing Sean Murphy on that. Sean Murphy is a creative dynamo, in my opinion. Not the best art, but he knows how to work. You recall Murphy, I assume?
Yes, I do know Murphy, because we just reviewed his stuff.
Well, it was a few weeks ago, and you couldn't remember who G. Willow Wilson was, so I wanted to make sure.
I remember the Murphy. Yes. When you have to stare at, like, several books of his intently in a small amount of time, you tend to remember names.
Okay. Is anyone reading Green Lantern right now? Because I could use a little bit of help here.
God help me, as it is one of my favorite of all time DC heroes, I have not.
Ooh, slacker.
No, I've had a reason. The writer. Well, you know what? I've already voiced my displeasure at Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern's writing. So let's just say that's what's kept me away.
Okay.
But I will gladly answer your question.
All right, because I need a little bit of help with the latest issue, number 48 here.
Okay.
John Stewart, the second Green Lantern from Earth, the African-American one.
Yes.
He's assembled a team to take on the Black Stars, I believe it's called. Some kind of marauding group with power
Dark
armor.
Stars.
The Dark Stars, okay. They have a power armor to rival the Green Lantern Corps, and they have possibly more manpower right now. But John...
Yeah, it's basically the controllers' answer to the Green Lanterns. You know, the controllers are
yes.
Race deviated from the Guardians.
Okay. All right, I have to ask, because John Stewart apparently has assembled a team to deal with the Dark Stars while the Green Lantern Corps takes them on head-on, and it's a strange and eclectic crew he's got here.
Oh, what has he got?
Oh, he's got the four most well-known Lanterns from Earth: himself, Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner, and Guy Gardner.
Yep.
With them is the enforcer for the Sinestro Corps, Archillo, basically the number 2 of the Yellow Lanterns.
I totally buy that. I know why that is.
Okay.
What else you got?
Orion, Prince of the New Gods.
Well, you know, I kind of think I know what that is too.
Okay, they have Hector Hammond with them, longtime Green Lantern enemy and Supermind.
I saw that. Hal recruited him because Hector is in a state where he's little better than being sequestered in a retirement home.
Okay.
He's a miserable bastard. He needs anything he can possibly do to be anything than what he is, which is collecting piss in a piss bag.
All right, and the final member everyone can kneel before.
Zod?
Yes.
Okay, I could follow that too.
Well, like I said, this is the most eclectic crew I've ever seen. Why are they here?
Okay, Archillo is there because Guy Gardner is his friend. Yes.
Okay.
From what I understand, each one of the Lanterns went out and recruited somebody. So Guy Gardner got Archillo because that is his old partner from when the Yellow and the Green all were partnered up. So they see alike. So they're buddies. They're drinking buddies. Zod, I think Hal Jordan sought him out because Hal Jordan knows power when he sees it, and he's dealt with Zod before, and he appealed to Zod's want for control, I believe. And he also showcased the fact that, you know, you have all this power, but you also have all this weakness, and the Dark Stars will do something about you. As far as Orion, from what I understand, Orion's former mate or former love interest is in the Sinestro Corps. So there might be something to that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And who else was there?
Zod.
So I already addressed Zod.
Okay. There was Zod, Hector Hammond, Archillo, and Orion.
Okay, so Hector Hammond's the one I didn't think. Hector Hammond, yeah, he was basically on a bed wanting somebody to kill him. So Hal is trying to do something to help him. I think he's actually trying to offer to restore him to some level of humanity. Because all he really is a massive head and his tiny body attached to it.
When you have stories like this, though, you just gave like 3 out of 4 red flags to make him the automatic red shirt of the story, really.
Yeah, I really think so. I think if anybody's going to take a bullet, it's going to be Hector Hammond, because it would really be a mercy killing at this point.
Okay. Also, when it comes to DC Comics, the Flash War appears to be winding down, and it's brought a speedster back to the DC Universe. As a result of all the complicated shenanigans between Zoom, Wally West, and Barry Allen, Bart Allen appears to have made his big return to the DCU.
And wearing his Impulse costume.
And about 10 years old.
Yeah, basically the way he was in the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, the artist's rendition here was kind of bizarre, because the body proportion was okay, but his eyes looked frickin' huge.
That's because the lenses on his mask are fucking huge.
Are you sure? Because he looked like he went all bishy on me. I couldn't quite understand what happened.
Well, as far as I understand, whenever I don't know why I was going with that particular sentence, but when they made Impulse and they brought him in, the main artist that was drawing him had kind of a stylized art to him, like a Humberto Ramos kind of thing, you know, big feet, big head, tiny body.
Okay.
So I think they just kind of went with that because the lenses on Impulse's masks were just gigantic. So I guess they just filled them with eye.
It's unsettling. I don't mind that the character is back. It's just, I think he's staring into my soul like a goddamn Funko Pop, and it's bothering the piss out of me.
I think they probably did that just to kind of scratch that level of nostalgia because Humberto Ramos drew a lot of Impulse.
Okay, well, the character was created by Mark Waid and Mike Wenrigo. And last up, when it comes to DC Comics, Flash number 51 is teasing the retirement of a speedster. The Flash writer Joshua Williamson showed off the cover to 51 in social media recently, alongside another image of what appeared to be torn up crimson and silver boots and somebody walking away from him. The implication is that after failing to save his kids, Wally West is going to hang up his boots for a little while.
That's disappointing.
It's disappointing, but it's not outside the realm of what's happening in the solicits we read, where Barry Allen's becoming the strongest hero in the DC universe for a little while. And considering the upcoming Sanctuary storyline, it would be a good time for him to go away for a little while just to come back after getting some kind of mental assistance.
True.
So
I mean, that's probably what's going to happen. I don't like it because I'm a Wally fan.
The thing is, though,
Barry's nice, but Wally is where he's at.
The way they've written him recently, you kind of have to remove him from the book for a little while, because they just officially established an in-canon story where Wally West is faster than Barry.
I know.
So if he's still around, everyone's going to ask why you need Barry there if Wally can run circles around him, quite literally.
Well, I think that's an absurd question. Why would we want two speedsters? Because they're two fucking speedsters. Who gives a shit who's faster?
I don't know.
I guess it matters when you're like trying to bill your book as Flash, the fastest man alive, and if he's not, then what is he? But
Grandpa
what do
needs
I
to
know?
retire, I guess. And last up, we have general comic and convention news. This is where we talk about comic books that are not Marvel or DC related, as well as conventions happening all around the world. An odd thing happened this week. Nobody really wanted to talk about conventions. I don't know if that's because there was nothing to say, or if that's because San Diego is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. But nobody really wanted to talk conventions, so it's all about comics. June 2018 sales are down compared to a year ago, but they did have a big number one that stood at the top of the racks this week, and that was Justice League.
Of course.
The first issue of the new Justice League came out in June, and it topped sales by almost 50,000 copies over the next comic in line.
I feel crappy because I got into Justice League, but I started at issue 2 because I couldn't find any ones.
Wow, really? It sold out everywhere you went?
Yeah, well, I only went to a couple places.
Okay. I'm not surprised that Justice League took number 1. It's one of the most recognizable properties in all of comics. What I am surprised is what came in at number 2.
What's that?
Image Comics' The Magic Order, number 1.
What?
Yeah. They took the number 2 spot
somebody
for all
just
sales.
bought the books. I'm not buying that.
You know
when
what?
I say bought the books, I mean the books have been cooked.
I sat down and read that as one of my reviews a few weeks ago. That was a pretty damn solid first issue. And
I never even heard of it.
They actually had a small campaign on Netflix for trailers. That's how I learned about it.
Oh.
But
wow,
it's also, from what I hear, it may have been optioned for a live-action series, and that was before the first issue came out. So the script of the comic obviously been bouncing around for a little while. But that's actually quite a feat when you think about both of those books beat out Tony Stark Iron Man number 1, Amazing Spider-Man 801, and Batman 48 and 49.
Yeah. You know what? I feel like an idiot. I thought Amazing was actually going to end at 800. So when 801 came out, I'm like, what the hell?
A little surprised, huh?
A little.
Okay. There's been a little bit of drama regarding Stan Lee over the past week.
More?
God, I know. It's fucking heartbreaking.
Yeah. Now, let's back up here. There have been claims that the people taking care of him have been committing elder abuse. There have been claims that his business manager has been ripping him off. And there's even been a problem as to his legal representation. There have been two different lawyers recently that say that they represent Stan Lee.
That's awful.
It's gotten to the point where a couple of weeks ago, Stan Lee even filed for a restraining order against his business manager, Kia Morgan, the man who we just talked about has been accused of ripping him off in several different ways.
Right.
Right.
Well, a judge pro tem recently dismissed Lee's restraining order against Kia Morgan. But don't
Why?
worry. Don't worry. It's for a better reason than you think. Remember when I said that there were 2 different lawyers who said that they represented Lee?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that has recently been straightened out. Lee is officially being represented by only one of those attorneys. He dismissed Tom Lallis. He has now retained Robert Reynolds. And the thing is, Tom Lallis was the one who filed the restraining order against Kia Morgan. Now that Lallis has been dismissed, the restraining order has been dismissed, and they're refiling the restraining order under Robert Reynolds' law firm.
Oh, God. When I saw the headline on this, because I did a lot of things today. I've been a busy person.
Mhm.
So I'm doing my Facebook thing, looking at all the comic headlines and shit like that, and I get to Stan Lee, and it says, restraining order released. Stan Lee, I'm just going to give up on life now. I'm like, God damn.
Well, after the dismissal of the restraining order, and like I said, Robert Reynolds said he was planning on refiling, I had to admit I laughed to myself a little bit because I was reading that story. I just said, his attorney is Robert Reynolds? He's being represented by the Sentry?
I know.
That surprised the hell out of me. That's one of the biggest coincidences I've ever seen in the universe. But
The magic of alliteration.
really. Also, the lawsuit that was filed on behalf of Stan Lee against his former entertainment company, POW, has been dropped. Current speculation is this may be one of those things that Kia Morgan was pushing to try and get more money out of Lee.
Yeah.
So that little bit of drama is over. And also, Stan Lee has released a statement via POW Entertainment, or with, I should say, POW Entertainment, about his social media, and he has admitted that he does not personally run them, but he does sign off on all the posts on them. So Power Entertainment is running them with his blessing, basically. Which may have been the way they were run before. You remember that creepy message he put out about 3-4 weeks ago that he is now posting his first actual tweet?
Yeah.
Yeah. That may have been another Kia Morgan power grab.
I don't like that guy.
No. No, and it takes some chonies to take advantage of a 95-year-old man's legacy.
God. I found out that his younger brother is actually still alive and in his 90s as well.
Wow.
That's kind of cool to be able to live that long and still be able to have your close sibling still alive with you the entire time.
That's either some very good genetics or the Lee family's been hiding that they're a family of Nosferatu all this time.
Yeah, and from what I understand, he's actually been the guy that's been working on the Spider-Man newspaper strips for the past 40 some odd years.
Well, speaking of newspaper strips, actually, Archie is going to reach its 700th issue this fall. They're going to have a new creative team. Nick Spencer, the writer of The Secret Empire, will be working on the story. Marguerite Sauvage from Bombshells United and Immortal Hulk will be working on the art. Apparently, they're going to take Archie into a more Riverdale-style storytelling.
Yeah, well, Riverdale is apparently getting popular over there. The CW's got it, right? CW.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's a Warner book or Warner TV show. It apparently is doing pretty well. I've watched the first season, and I don't quite know how I feel about it. I think the actors are working their asses off. I really do. The story, though, leaves so much to be desired.
Well, it's like one of those teen soap opera dramas, but they try to spin it in a dark way.
Mm-hmm.
It's dumb.
Yeah, I've been hearing some less than flattering things about some of the storyline choices.
You know what?
Basically, they're trying to make everything Twilight, which I have a lot of feelings about, and they're not positive.
It's kind of funny you say that, because as I watched that first season, I could have sworn that Archie was going to sparkle in the sun every time he stepped out.
Right?
He does not look human. Let alone, there is no redhead on that show that actually has red hair.
I could spend a good portion of this podcast talking about why I don't like Twilight. And it's not because I want to join the crowd in crapping on it because, it's a female-centered book. I crap on it because it's the worst female protagonist ever put to a movie.
Okay, now
Yes.
look. I like Riff Tracks, or I like Twilight only for Riff Tracks. I think Riff Tracks has done a wonderful job with those movies. But at the same time, though, Twilight is not a good female-driven story because it was written with this bizarre story where everybody in town is enamored with the crazy talking quiet girl who keeps to herself in the back of the classroom. You know, the exact opposite of most people's experience in high school.
Yeah.
And from a woman's point of view, it's a toxic relationship. He's manipulative. He saves her when it's... Look, I read it because I wanted to know what was going on.
Okay,
you know?
I assume
read
you
it
just...
too.
I was assuming you just hated
However-
yourself for a while.
I did. I had insomnia really bad one summer, and I was like, okay, well, I'll check this out. I've got nothing else to read or watch, and this is before I had Netflix. So I was going to be an English major. Okay, so background. When I find errors and typos and context that's been skewed, and it was bad editing, it was bad writing, it was poor motivation for most of what all of the characters do, and just from a literary point of view, it's horrible. And then you go to the movie where, I'm sorry, a cardboard cutout could have done better acting than what's her face?
Okay,
Kristen
we're
Stewart.
talking Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, that one.
I wasn't sure if we were talking
She
about the
looks-
males in the story.
No, she looks nauseated half the day. And let me
Yeah.
just set the record straight. Vampires don't sparkle. That's fairies. Fairies flit around woods. Fairies sparkle. And fairies have, I don't know, guttural issues where instead of talking they go, ugh. Not vampires. I'm a classicist. I am a big Anne Rice fan. I would like to introduce them to Lestat, the entire Cullen family. Or Buffy. Maybe
I'm gonna
both.
take the football that Joanna's got in her hands. I'm gonna run with it because I agree. What was going on in Twilight? That was not a vampire. It had no weaknesses.
They're
None
fae. They
at
have to
all.
be some sort of fae.
Yeah, they the way they had them planned out, they weren't vampires. They were like little demigods with no weaknesses.
They could
And
have
no
been white court
fangs.
vampires.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the Dresden series,
Yes.
the white court, they're very nice looking. They're usually shiny. They're all about themselves. They're manipulative. They take humans as pets. That's what the Cullens are, not
Yeah.
vampires.
Okay.
Just saying, for
just-
the record.
Well, we're going to move on here, but I will finish by saying I give Stephanie Meyer some credit. At least she made a love triangle between a vampire, a werewolf, and a zombie.
She's
But-
not the first one that did it.
Well done, sir. I saw what you did there.
Right. Yes, I did too.
Gerard Way's Umbrella Academy. It's coming back for a third miniseries.
I'm excited about that.
It's been announced that Dark Horse will have the third volume titled Hotel Oblivion. Entertainment Weekly has confirmed the story of the super family called the Umbrella Academy will continue, and it's set to be released this fall. This is kind of a big deal since the second volume of Umbrella Academy was called Dallas, and it was released almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, and he gave all the inclinations that this was going to be the last time he'd ever done it, and he was never going back to it, and he was done with comic books, all this stuff. So
He may have been...
as a fan of this series, I was like, okay, well, this is all the Umbrella Academy that we're going to get. And then 10 years pass, and nothing changed my mind about that.
You know what? He
Then
may
this
have been re-inspired by Netflix. Netflix picked it up for a live-action series, and they've gone so far as to cast several prominent characters already.
And you reminding me of that has now filled me with more joy. Thank you for enlightening my day.
And people think I'm
Aw.
worthless on this show. Titan Comics has announced that they're publishing in-canon storylines to continue the Blade Runner story. Titan,
Curious about that.
Yeah, Titan is a London-based company. They're partnering with Alcon Media Group for a series of in-canon comics and graphic novels set within the universe of Blade Runner. The co-founders of Titan, Nick Landau and Vivian Chung, issued a statement along with Alcon co-founders and co-CEOs Broderick Johnson and Andrew Kozov that the companies will develop a mix of Blade Runner comics and a variety of publications focused on the visual and technical sides of the production process. And I don't quite know what that means.
I don't either.
I wish I could say I'm terribly excited about this, and I'm not saying that to be denigrating to fans of Blade Runner. It's just I understand where it sits in the canons of sci-fi royalty. It's just never been something that's connected to me personally.
And I can totally understand why, because Blade Runner is not a boom, boom, boom consume sci-fi.
No, it's
It
not
is
a
not
popcorn.
full of
It's
action and eye candy.
Yeah.
It is eye candy, but it's a
it's
very slow burn.
it's a thought-provoking Stanley Kubrick-style movie. I understand that,
Right.
but that's not always what I want my entertainment. Is all.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody tells me how wondrous 2001 is, but I cannot sit through that movie without falling asleep.
Neither can I, and it's also something that has a big seat when it comes to the big stories of sci-fi, and I get that, but wow, is that a plotting film?
Oh God, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, can I hijack the independent comics thing for just a smidge?
Depends. You've already hijacked it once to denigrate vampires in all their forms and species, so what have you
You know,
got?
me and Joanna did a tag team on that one. High five.
I was part of that, yes.
Yes. The weirdest thing, this is about Dark Horse and the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. That is actually in its 12th season right now.
Mm-hmm. And I hear
I
Joss
was on-
Whedon is returning for the latest season.
Yeah, you know what the weirdest thing is? I actually have I keep library sized trade paperbacks of the Buffy series, and we're talking library. We're talking like the absolute editions that sometimes DC will crank out, those oversized books, massive oversized books. Well, Dark Horse, my thanks to them. They crank out these massive hardcover editions of Buffy, and they do it for like $20 or $30. Super fucking cheap. I go on the Buffy thread on Reddit, and I'm talking to some people about the two new ones that are coming out at the end of this month and in September. And somebody pointed out that for some reason, every single person that is selling a Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 9, Volume 3 are all going for $400 plus. And no one knows why. But every single bookseller I've gone to has been cranking it about $300 to $500, and I can't find any news pointing to why. Is it a low print run? Did something happen with this book? I have a copy, and it's not going anywhere, but I'm just kind of curious. What's going on here?
It could have been a rarity. It also could be a side effect of recent legislative things that have happened in this country, because of all the arguments over trade restrictions and everything else is happening. See, one of the things I tried to explain on the prior show I worked on that not a lot of people understood is that what happens in Washington can affect comic books rather greatly. And when people don't believe that, it bothers me, because it turns out our biggest importer of printers and printed products is Canada. A lot of the Marvel and DC properties are sent to Canada for printing and then shipped into the U.S. So when you bust those trade agreements, the prices of paper skyrockets.
Well, I mean, this book has been out for a couple of years now, but I'm just kind of curious. I mean, did it get hit with a severely low print run? Because I can't find it on Dark Horse. I can't find it on Thing from Another Planet, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. No one's got this for cover price. Actually, most people don't even have it. And the only places I find that have it are trying to crank it out for $400. And that's Amazon's Aftermarket, and Bibliophile.com also has it for $300. And I saw it on eBay for $150. So something's going on here, and I'm really kind of curious as to what it is.
Well, I couldn't say. Put on your Sherlock hat and go find out. But
I will continue my investigation.
In the meantime, R.L. Stein has announced that he has a multi-book deal now with Boom Studios, the comic book manufacturers. He signed a 4-book original graphic novel deal with Boom. R.L. Stein is the writer of the children's horror stories of Goosebumps and Fear Street.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, they announced a Goosebumps sequel.
There is supposed to be some kind of new Goosebumps book coming out, but so far the details of it are under wraps.
Oh, I meant the movie.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there was another movie. From what I heard,
Goosebumps too.
Yeah, from what I heard, Goosebumps is supposed to be one of the 4 books that R.L. Stein is going to work on with Boom Studios.
Cool.
Well, I guess. Oh, somebody will be happy about that.
I could be wrong in that regard. It could be all original stories. Maybe he's moving on from Goosebumps to create other new stories.
Yeah. I mean, the man's talented. He knows what he's doing.
Speaking of continuations, though, Netflix's Lost in Space is getting a continuation via Countdown to Danger in Legendary Comics. It's going to be
what can they really do with that? I mean, it's a pretty linear story, so they're just going to have to, fill in the gaps on stuff that doesn't matter?
They're actually there's quite a few ways they could go, considering how that first season ended. They're in a new sector of space by themselves.
I actually haven't finished the season.
Oh. Well, yeah, I watched the whole thing. It's going to be written by Richard Dinnick, who recently worked on Doctor Who and Thunderbirds comics, and Brian Buccellato, who's worked on Detective Comics and The Flash. The artist is going to be Zid, who recently worked on Skull Island, Birth of Kong, Trick or Treat, Days of the Dead. This expansion is going to be entitled Lost in Space, Countdown to Danger.
I wonder if it's a prequel.
It's possible.
Every time I hear the word countdown, I think prequel.
Well, it could fill in the gaps of what's happened in the Netflix series. It could continue the story. There's so many things that could potentially happen this way, it's hard for me to speculate. The writer of Planet Hulk, Greg Pak, is writing a new ongoing James Bond series. This is coming out via Dynamite Entertainment and Ian Fleming Publications Limited, so it's technically more official than, what was it? Oh my god, I can't remember the name of the last Sean Connery Bond film now.
The last Sean Connery Bond film? Well,
Yeah,
it depends if you want canon or not canon.
It was the unofficial one, the one that was pretty much a remake
Never
of
Say
Thunderball.
Never Again.
Thank you. So this comic book continuation is actually an in-canon story for an Ian Fleming Productions. It's going to be written by Pack with art by Mark Lamming. The new series has 007 tracking a smuggler to Singapore to recover a package, only to cross paths with a Korean man looking to obtain the same thing for himself. The two men face each other in the shadows while being simultaneously targeted by a terrorist organization called ORU and marked for death. Well, that sounds like a Bond story, I'll give him that.
Right.
It does sound like a Bond story. Marked, death, got it.
Something happening at San Diego Comic-Con that isn't in the convention is a special showcase of Battle Angel Alita. This isn't of a comic book or manga book, this is the film. According to the Hollywood Reporter, they will be having a special panel with never-before-seen footage from the movie, and the way to get in isn't a simple lineup. You have to get a passport from the Loot Crate booth inside Comic-Con and collect 6 Battle Angel Alita stickers from the booths of Titan Books, Hot Toys and Sideshow Collectibles, Prime One Studio, Weta Workshop, and Funko in order to get in. It's a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, sounds cool.
The panel is scheduled to take place July 20th. I believe that's at the Horton. It's going to have the director Robert Rodriguez, producer John Landau, and stars Rosa Salazar and Kian Johnson in attendance. So if you're looking for something different to spend your day on, that sounds like the place to be. And last, I know everybody's suddenly speculating. Can I make that? The last story in general comic news. Are you familiar with the series Mr. Robot on USA?
No.
I saw the trailer for it. I don't have actual television.
Oh my god, you both disappoint me so greatly.
This wouldn't have
Why?
any connection to the big entertainment property from the 90s, would it?
No, Mr. Robot is actually something that came out as of about 2 or 3 years ago. It's a USA original series. It was created by a writer named Sam Esmail, and it's about a hacker who has a personality disorder. And
there's the Christian Slater show.
Yes.
I can't believe I didn't figure that out. Yes, I've watched the first season.
Okay. And he basically produces a hack that changes the structure of the global economy.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, it was announced this week that Black Mass Studios is working with Sam Esmail, who is writing a comic book prequel to Mr. Robot, an in-canon story, by the same writer of the show.
That might explain some of the things that happened in season 1.
Possibly. It's being done also with show writer Jeff McKibben, Antonio Fuso, Antonio Fuso is going to be the illustrator.
Maybe it'll focus on his dad.
I don't know about his dad. Maybe just the events that led up to the creation of the Mr. Robot persona.
Mm-hmm.
The series first debuted in summer of 2015, so this will predate that.
God, I need to go back and watch that. Thanks for reminding me. I haven't watched Mr. Robot in a long time.
I haven't recalled seeing anything about announcements for another series. I know it was re-upped for another season, but I haven't heard when it's coming back.
Yeah, I know it finished a second season a while back.
Oh.
And then it just kind of fell out of memory so much so that when you brought it up, it didn't even click what we were talking about until just now.
Well, how convenient. At the end of the story, it actually says that the Mr. Robot prequel comic is scheduled to launch sometime this fall. Maybe that means we'll get the new season around the same time.
I'm actually looking up Mr. Robot. Why do I keep putting Mr. Robert?
I enjoyed the series. I mean, the second season was a little bit meandering, but at the same time, they've built a hell of a detailed world here. And the characters are, even in their weird idiosyncrasies, the characters are believable. I love that.
Oh, hey, it actually it's had 3 seasons.
That's right, the third season is done. The first 2 seasons are available on Amazon.
It debuted on October, and in December of last year, it was renewed for a 4th season. So I guess 4th season will show up here in a couple months.
I hope so. Maybe there'll be another announcement at San Diego.
I bet.
They haven't had a panel, as far as I know, but they've been there the last couple of years doing off-site events and promotions.
Yeah, unless, of course, it was delayed because the main character was shooting that Queen biopic.
It could be.
Oh, that's right. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rami Malek, man, he is underappreciated. I can't believe
I
thought
he was. I thought his casting of Mr. Robot was absolute genius.
Oh yeah, he's been brilliant since the Night at the Museum films.
Yeah, I liked him in those.
What was he in the Night Museum?
The Egyptian Prince.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
He didn't enter into my atmosphere until Mr. Robot, and I'm like, whoa, where the fuck did this talent come from?
He's been around. He's just usually under the radar because he keeps getting cast in Middle Eastern roles, and you know how people react to that. They just kind of turn their eyes away for some reason.
Oh, wow. He was in the HBO series The Pacific, and he was... Oh, wow, he was in a bunch of stuff I didn't see.
Yep. Well, the...
Twilight.
Oh, sorry. The subject of this week is Justice League No Justice by DC Comics. This is a 2018 miniseries that bridged the gaps between Dark Knight's Metal to the current storytelling going on in DC Comics right now. The series has a number of different artists to it, but the main writer of it all is Scott Snyder. He is the same one who did Dark Knight's Metal, a long run on Batman before Tom King took over with the Rebirth. The first issue's art was done by Francis Manapul. And I gotta say, like I said last week, I read the first and last issues just in the course of reading comics, but I didn't read the middle story, so I wasn't sure if I understood it all the way through. Basically what you have here is a story where Brainiac has gathered together a number of heroes from DC's, from Earth, really, heroes and villains, and is requesting that they save his own home planet of Kolu, and if they don't, Earth is going to be under threat by the same things that are attacking his home planet.
Because he made it that way.
Yeah, and that's the base of the story. The actual execution of it gets complicated.
Yep.
I can't tell if that's a yes yup or if that's an oh my god yup.
Well, I don't want to get too deep into my opinions on this one just yet, since we're still in the story explanation state of this.
Okay. Well, since the artist shifts, I'd like to talk about Francis Manapul's work in this first issue for a minute.
Okay.
I don't think he's a bad artist. I really don't. His action scenes have a good amount of dynamic action to them, and his characters are all very distinct, highly recognizable. His line work is pretty clean, except when he tries to portray scuffed or dirty, there's a little bit too much line work for my liking. If there's a complaint, I would say it almost looks like he tried really hard to make a stylized version of the Bruce Timm animated style on the comic book page.
I don't know if I should blame him, the inker, or the colorist, but whoever handled blacks in this issue needs to rethink their technique.
Why, racist?
Wow!
That was
I'm
a
gonna
stretch.
I'm going to continue my obviously racist rant on blacks here.
Dude, it's just the way you said it. I don't like the handling of blacks in this issue. It's like, what the frick, man? There was only 3 of them.
What I'm talking about is the
Shades
shading.
of
If you look at like Batman, you look at Brainiac's trim on his chest, the black that's used for shading on Martian Manhunter. Well, basically everybody on wearing those costumes. I don't know if they're trying to go for like a galactic look, so you want to do like speckles, but it just looks it doesn't look clean. It looks half-assed, and
I think he was going for textured. He didn't want it to look like flat latex or anything.
yeah, I suppose I didn't care for it, but hey, yeah, I guess this.
Well, I was going to say the look of the book was fair. The storyline starts out pretty strong in the first issue with a couple of weird hiccups, in my opinion. When Brainiac stomping the hell out of the entire world's worth of heroes and then telling them he needs their help. My only curiosity under that story is, man, if it was that easy, if everything was just a mathematical equation as he puts it in the book, why has this been so goddamn hard for the last 40 years?
You know what? I was talking to Joanna about that before we started recording, and I don't think that this really was any showcase on how cool Brainiac is, or even how adept at villainy he is. He is really just the means to an end. He's the plot device you use in a tabletop RPG to keep the people together and put them on the path.
I understand that. It seemed like an odd piece of writing that this one character who has harangued all of these characters at different points and has been defeated by small groups of them is suddenly able to take on the entire planet worth and make it look easy.
See, that's the thing. They could have easily accomplished the same goals of this story if Brainiac had actually come to them open-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And, when they played maybe a storyline about how we can't trust this guy and he's done this and this. Or maybe he trounced one team and then came open-handed. But yeah, totally clowning the world's superheroes and then also saying, oh, hey, by the way, I want to work with you. That was a poor Scott Snyder written tool.
Okay. I will say, though, that if I had a favorite moment I wish would stretch out to more of this issue, it was the interactions between Harley Quinn and Beast Boy.
Yeah.
Almost like that strange mentorship that was going on there.
It was not mentorship, it was just kind of that similar wavelength buddy-buddy thing. Both of them in their respective teams are the comic relief or the one with I guess you could say an off-putting attitude, but the two of them working together or even talking to each other was just something I was enjoying for the few panels they did it.
Oh, I completely agree. Brainiac will kill us all. Bear will eat us all.
Exactly.
In the solicits for this issue, everybody was excited to find out about the mixed-up teams between the heroes and villains and the various color coding. I have a question. Who dressed them?
They got dressed while they were asleep by nanites.
They woke up in these outfits, and I'm staring at it just going, dude, somebody's taking my dream job again.
It's not creepy at all.
I didn't say it wasn't creepy. It's just, you wake up in different clothes, and everybody's just acting very normally about it.
So whose minion do we have to sign up to be for that job then?
It's obviously Brainiac. Brainiac knows how to design clothes and costumes and make nanites do it for him.
Will 2.0 have the same job opening? Because it looks like he took over he called him his father.
Yeah, how exactly do you sign up for that on LinkedIn anyway?
I don't think you can. I think that's a nepotistic situation.
No, I mean the hench job.
What kind of experience do you need? What kind of credentials? I can get those credentials.
Yeah, we're not talking the familial connection. We're talking about how exactly do you list a job where you have to redress heroes as they're knocked out unconscious.
I think our friend Jessie is going to get that job before we will.
That's true. She's got better fashion sense anyway.
Way better.
But like I said, during the solicits, everyone was so excited about these different characters mixed up on these teams. I guess my question would be, for Brainiac, did he really have to bother with creating these stylized versions of all their costumes? If he just wanted to give them outfits with notes, couldn't he just, I don't know, made one uniform and given it to all of them?
You're absolutely correct, but you know what? The gods of comic books spoke and said, hey, we need new fancy costumes, and we're going to use this really flimsy story hook as to why they have them.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was just something that occurred to me on this read-through. It's not even the first time I read it. I was just staring at it going, wait, why did he bother giving Superman his S? Why did he bother giving Sinestro something that even looks like his original outfit? Why did he give Raven all these wild colors all of a sudden? Who in the hell hired him to do this? Tim Gunn?
I'm going to go out and rationalize that this was not a logical thing. This was done out of pride. Apparently, Brainiac is prideful that he has collected his champions, and he wants his champions to look the way he wants them to look. So I think that if you really want to stretch this and bring it back into any plausible kind of world, it had everything to do with Brainiac's sense of control.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a controlling thing. Like, I am telling you, you have to wear these, and then the nodes that they call them, draw them to their respective trees of their groups, whatever.
Yeah.
I have to say, though, I really liked Wonder Woman's costume because I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a collection of all of her various costumes, armors, etc. I need that figure in that costume. It's pretty awesome.
It'll probably happen. And you know what? I do have a favorite character out of this series, but it's not in the first issue. And then, are we going to break this down issue by issue, or do we want to talk about the entire 4 issues?
We'll go through it as we go through the issues.
Right.
The heroes and villains in here are too much to list. And what did you think of I guess you could say the antagonist of the story, the new introduction of the Omega Titans, of 4, I don't know, he called them the 4 forces of life, but at the same time, they were pretty ill-defined forces.
Well, you know what? I am not that fanboy that goes, hey, they ripped off so-and-so, when, that just happens. Comic books cross-pollinate all the time. I accepted it a long time ago, and I don't waste a lot of anger and bitterness over, oh my god, that's just a Spider-Man ripoff, or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, that being said, these are Celestials.
Fairly well, Celestials with a Galactus hunger.
These
Right,
are Celestials, with galactic hunger and some...
Galactic, Galactus.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But the mystery, wonder,
and entropy
when I was first
and
introduced
wisdom.
to this, I'm like, okay, that seems really weak. You just really wanted something, whatever, attached to this. Now, but as the books go on, I get kind of why they chose the names, and I will retract that bit of bitterness. But I mean, looking at these, just the design, the size, what they're doing, their silence, their alienness, it really just feels like DC's Diet Celestial.
As we get
bit.
into this, we'll talk about the Omega Titans a bit more. I feel like the definition of them was a sliding scale, unfortunately. The words that they used to describe these 4, I don't know, mystery and entropy didn't feel quite right. It almost felt like somebody was reaching through a thesaurus and found what they wanted.
Yeah, it really did feel
tacked on,
forced. Yeah. However you want to do it, it just feels tertiary.
Mm-hmm.
And getting into issue 2, well, actually, towards the end of issue 1, when Brainiac is about to describe how he needs their abilities and their actions to save the world, when he was accidentally destroyed by Amanda Waller and her new Task Force 11 full of psychics to scan his mind.
Fucking Waller.
And all of a sudden he went all scanner and his head exploded.
Yes, fucking Waller. And we see, what do you call it? Oh god, what's his first name? Lord.
Maxwell Lord.
Maxwell Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh wow, it's Maxwell Lord. We see him for one frame and he's sleeping. Oh, okay.
You know what? I gotta ask though, and this is a serious question. Considering all the things that Amanda Waller has created and how much worse they've made the world overall, why is she still allowed to do what she does?
Right.
Because she also has the balls of those in power in certain slings. I'm fairly certain that she keeps her position through outright blackmail.
Because she seems to be very
so.
bad at her job.
Yeah.
I just like
she's good
her on so many levels.
Well, I like the
Yeah.
concept of the character, but even her greatest success in Task Force X, the Suicide Squad, barely counts as a success. She's only holding on to them because most of them, even though they've had multiple opportunities to escape, but they've just agreed that they're better off where they're at. So it just seems bizarre to me that she's allowed to keep her job under any circumstance. I'm surprised she hasn't been shot yet. The second issue of this story, though, when Waller is on her way to intercept the Omega Seed left on Earth, and she's met by Green Arrow, which I don't even know how to quantify that, because they just laid out several things going on in the first few pages between them, of exposition of things that nobody knew about. You know, the remaining heroes on Earth, with the exception of him and like a half dozen others, are still frozen for no real reason. And how he knew to come all the way to the Fortress of Solitude to find the Omega Seed, I'm really unclear on.
It's a lot of nebulous plot devices, but they don't explain them, they don't give reasons, and I don't think that they clarified any as of yet.
Well, they also didn't clarify how Amanda Waller got there, because at the end of the prior issue, when she accidentally killed Brainiac, she was in the center of Belle Rev Prison with her psychics. And then the beginning of the next issue, not even a day has passed, she's already in the Arctic Circle on an industrial snowmobile, headed for the Fortress of Solitude. How in the frick did you get there?
The nebulous powers of I have so many connections and I have so many things.
You know, if
blah blah blah.
If they just written it where she had her own boom tube and mother box, I would have completely bought that. But they made it look like she took more conventional travel, a plane and this thing.
It seems to me that Snyder took a lot of shortcuts to try to smash what he really wanted to focus on in 4 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And because, I mean, this is comic books. You can't waste frames on boring shit, regardless of how important they probably are to the narrative. And her scheduling a flight up there is boring shit.
Right.
You know,
it's fair, but...
Go ahead,
Unless,
Joanna,
of course,
please.
Green Arrow's going to be on that plane, no one cares about those frames.
Still jumped around a little more than I wanted, but, you know.
It felt like it.
Same here.
I mean, the combined Justice League and villains on Colu converging on these 4 trees, they were zipping back and forth so quickly, they never really expanded on what half of them did when they got there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah.
You know, the most...
This really, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, this really did feel like someone's half-assed superhero tabletop RPG.
Well, this has been one of my more consistent complaints about DC event books. A lot of them feel like they knew exactly where they were starting from, you know, the end of the current canon, and where they wanted to get to, the beginning of the story after these events. The problem is, it feels like the events themselves are just bridging the time between the two, not like they serve an actual purpose in storytelling beyond that.
Yeah, agreed.
So this is what it felt like after I was done with these 4 issues. I mean, even the reveal of Vril Drox at the end of the 2nd issue didn't feel like much, because it's kind of a C-list DC character who didn't matter much even during the period he was first introduced and ran through DC. And the only time I actually sat up and was more interested was when Superman's team, Team Mystery, found that the bottling technology that the Coluans had used on cities prior had been grown to a planetary scale, and they had hundreds or thousands of planets in their quasi-museum there, what they call the nursery. That's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to be honest with you, of all the storylines I saw in here, that's actually the one that caught my attention the most, because it seemed like they had more at stake.
Well,
the other ones were just like, eh.
It's also the one that through this story actually had a logical endpoint, because they figured that the way to affect their tree would be to release all these planets, and that there's enough planets that it creates a new sector of space that even the Green Lanterns have not patrolled before, with all these new mysteries and races that may not have been heard from in hundreds of thousands of years. That's an interesting story. That feels like it has a beginning, middle, and end, and a fallout that could last well into where DC's heading.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why it caught my attention.
You know,
although, you know what? I'm going to say this, and because I've been waiting on this one. A standout character has caught my attention, a character I've never paid any attention to, never given any agency to. I just, whatever, throwaway character, stupid DC, moving on.
Okay.
But man, Starro stole every scene he was in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about stole. I mean, he was... Well,
he stole. Every time he spoke, he stole my attention. And I'm like, when did this guy get so fucking snarky?
Yeah,
I thought
that was in Dark Knight's Metal.
Really?
Yeah, Dark Knight's Metal is when we found out about Starbro. And that's
Starbro?
Well, that's not his official
That's
name.
what
That's
I heard.
that's what a lot of reviewers called him, because he popped up for no reason with this snarky attitude that nobody could quite place. So they just called him Starbro.
Yeah, because the Starro I know is just like a silent alien thing that throws stars on people's faces and takes over. But this one was like speaking
Yeah.
And I was reading the page, and when he speaks, it doesn't have an arrow pointing to him. It just has a nebulous pink, orange, whatever colored cloud.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the hell is talking?
Yeah, that's something Snyder introduced in Dark Knight's Metal, and the reason why Starro didn't steal anything from me was because of what happened in issue 3. First of all, I will say that issue 3 was when they very noticeably changed artists here. Riley Rossmo took over, and holy cow, was this a step down.
Oh, God, yes.
You know, I can't
even... that actually made me stop, go back, look at the guy's name, just so I could remember him for this review to point out, damn.
Yeah, and he looks like it. It's kind of weird because the first couple of issues, not great art, but definitely passable art. You know, it was fine for telling the story. The third issue, though, when Riley Rossmo took over, and I know this is going to sound bad, but this is how I feel, it looks like somebody just starting out on a self-published indie title.
Yes.
You know, like he was just figuring out how to tell the story. He was working with another guy who was much better, Marcus Toe, T-O.
Mm-hmm.
He seemed to take over later in the book, and that's when things cleaned up really fast.
Yeah, right when it got to Superman's team, I noticed that it cleaned up very, very fast.
Yeah, Riley Rossmo's version of Wonder Woman, she looks like she should be speaking in single syllables.
Or how about Harley Quinn? She looks fucking ridiculous.
She reminds me... his version of Harley Quinn, it almost looked like an anthropomorphized Lhasa Apso.
Or something, with those ridiculous ponytails of hers. And that...
yeah, she had like 60s anime hair. Her face always looked blank somehow, like not a thought was going through it. And all of a sudden, did you notice she went from like a lean athletic build in the first 2 issues to something very wasp-waisted? She looked like she should be stripping.
Yeah. Let's talk about what happened to Wonder Woman.
Oh, dude. I don't know what she's been taking, but she needs to stop.
She looks gigantic. And we're talking like bigger than Big Barda, gigantic.
Yeah. She looks like she's the type of person that would fist bump every single person in her local gym.
Yes. There's a roid rage going on here when she's talking about for Colu, for Earth. I'm like, whoa, Diana. You need to check your levels there.
Well, the dialogue...
She drinks protein, okay? And like she doesn't skip leg day, and she's all about deadlifts, okay?
She does not.
It would be so easy to take every one of those statements, Joanna, and turn it into horrible sexual innuendo, but I don't have the time.
Diana's my homegirl. Back up.
The thing is, though, Snyder in this issue, for some reason, seemed to turn on the dialogue exposition machine. Everybody had paragraphs to say.
Oh, God, I know.
You know, it's like when Diana had her big moment when they're trying to stop the Kaluan ghost from attacking them. She had a whole lot to say about her connection to magic all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's almost like whoever put together this book suddenly imagined her as a Rule 34 Conan.
Yeah, it seemed like, oh yeah, Diana's here. We should probably give her some lines. What would she talk about?
Yeah.
And it also seems like the outfit she's wearing seems different from the one that she had in the previous issue.
That's only because she's wearing it differently, because she's been taking the roids.
Guess so. Even the coloration seems off.
You know, the second half of this issue, it solidified some, but the only problem was, when I read the first few panels of issue 3, I was already under the impression Starro was going to die. They already implanted the seeds that Starro was going to heroically sacrifice himself in the first few pages of dialogue, really, or first few panels of dialogue.
And you know what? I think that's probably what drew me, because, I mean, I've said it at least 4 or 5 times during the course of us recording these things that I'm a gigantic fan of redemption stories. So when they already started transforming this guy from a silent alien thing into something that actually had a personality, and not only did it have a personality, it didn't have a cartoonish villain personality. It had a personality that like was concerned.
I don't know about concerned. I always thought he was more of a hold my beer personality.
Well, I mean, yeah, that, but I mean, there's some level of depth to the villain. Like when he's talking to Superman, and he's like, "Okay, I'm reaching into their minds now, calming them down, telling them it'll be okay. Don't make me a liar." I'm like, huh? Okay.
I don't know if that was.
Yeah,
I don't know about that because I didn't read that as concern so much as if you ruin my reputation, I will fucking kill you.
I didn't read that. I read a real concern about the situation he was in,
But
and yeah,
but to
and he
expand on
stepped
that,
up.
though, I don't know the whole supposed sacrifice of Starro. He forced the Atom to use his tech on him to grow so he could have a shot at taking over the Titan. I saw that both ways. I saw that as a heroic moment, and I also saw that as, oh god, if he takes this thing over, he might actually try to kill them out of spite. But the other thing is, though, we've seen the types of damage in the history of DC Comics that Starro could take. When he was ripped, I have no doubt that he felt pain. When everyone immediately said, oh my god, he's dead, my first thought was, he's a starfish, he's had worse.
Yeah, I was thinking he was probably going to come back for it, but then they were talking about like the psychic backlash and such. And,
I'm sure
the
there
other
was
issues.
I'm sure there was backlash that hurt, and he was telepathically connected to all of them. But at the same time, I'm not convinced he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, I'm convinced he's been very inconvenienced and in some pain, but I don't think he's gone. That's my personal take, only because I've studied starfish in school. They've done much worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what do you do with a semi-redemptive starfish or interstellar conqueror?
In the case of DC Comics, as soon as the next writer comes along that needs something to take over a planet, he's going to be the one in charge.
Yeah, but then you pretty much undone everything he's done, because you can't have that kind of villain do anything redemptive with any lasting impact for very long.
I'm sorry, Mystique. What? Mystique, Juggernaut? Huh? What? Magneto? Huh?
Well, but those are mutants, you know. Those are human mutants that you can actually put on a page, going, boom, this is our product. We're gonna sell it.
Yeah, and Riddler,
I
Penguin
you to make a Starro comic that will sell.
Riddler, Penguin. What? I'm just saying it's happened. People have put redemptive streaks in characters that the next writer has immediately undone.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but there's nothing marketing that can really do with this character afterwards.
Yeah. But the fourth issue, when they tied it all together, the fourth issue, if the third issue is where the wheels went off, the fourth issue is where it skidded to a stop. And the art on this one was fine throughout the book. I didn't really have a problem with that. I'm trying to find out who did the art. I'm having a little trouble locating the credits page on this issue.
Yeah, I'm actually digging through it right now. I'll find it.
Here we go. It's Francis Manipal who did this one. So
yeah, I could tell because of the shading.
Yeah, it seemed like Francis Manipal, about the time this mini came to a close, was when he really got a handle on everything. Everything was much better. The thing is, though, the problem with how they solved this back on Earth, the Omega Titans came to feed again, it felt like after everything they've been through, the solution was extremely simple somehow. It seemed like half the characters that were involved in this really didn't even have to be here for 90% of the story.
Yeah, they're basically standing around. That's when this tabletop turned into a LARP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as impressive as the cast was for No Justice, realistically, you could have solved just about every issue here with just the core cast of the Justice League.
I don't really think Superman did anything.
I think the only thing he did was help transport the seeds. Like once.
Mm-hmm.
I know Barry
he
Allen
handed one of the seeds to Deathstroke. That's pretty much the only thing I remember him doing.
Yeah, I know Barry Allen ran it like halfway around the world. I think Superman got it the other half.
Yeah.
But
other than that, I can't remember anything he's done.
No, I don't want to get into the details because the details are way more complicated than they need to be realistically. It was just so quickly resolved, I had whiplash. I didn't feel like I actually got a payoff at the end of the mini.
Yeah.
And,
Reynolds pulled a "do I am my dad's son" kind of routine.
Well, I'm Brainiac now. Yeah, ha ha. As a matter of fact, at the end of this mini, they did say that the various trees that have been sprouted up, representing the four forces of life, had stayed. I have yet to actually see them in any of the DC comics I've read so far.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to.
It's going to be much.
This.
Well, it's going to be a lot harder now that they've moved the Fortress of Solitude.
This this really just felt like a reason to put certain characters with other characters.
Yeah.
Without any real lasting impact, except of course, I suppose the new teams. Like we were talking about earlier with Detective Chimp and Wonder Woman, Zatanna, and all those others. It's a team reorganization thing. But other than that, yeah, I don't think this really would matter.
I will say, though, that like we discussed earlier on, it seems like DC had a plan for what was supposed to happen after this mini. They spent the last couple issues setting up storylines that have been reflected in certain comics, as well as given some characters more importance. The Green Arrow, for some reason, getting a package from the Martian Manhunter to be their counter if anything happens to the Justice League, kind of like how Batman was for the Justice League in prior storylines. Wonder Woman being more curious about her connections to mystical and magic forces that she's never felt before, but now is connected to. Again, though, it seems like the only ones that had a definitive purpose after this would be the upcoming Justice League Odyssey being headed by Starfire and Cyborg, because somebody has to check out all those new planets that have popped up in a new sector of space. And I gotta say, after everything is said and done, that's the story that's the most compelling to me. That is the most storytelling opportunity DC has given itself since really the Rebirth era. And I'm curious to read more about that, but unfortunately this mini, by the time I was done, I felt like I just needed a stiff chocolate milk, frankly. I feel like I'd earned myself a reward after this one.
Yeah, this felt unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten to the end here, and I think we've summed it up. So, Casey, you want to start us off with a final number score?
I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Really? I thought you were going to go lower than that.
Well, I didn't want to go too low because it's not terrible. It's just wasteful. It falls flat. It doesn't offend.
Okay.
We've dealt with some books that have offended, and I want to properly scale for that. This felt like, this is a popcorn movie when I really wanted to come here for some Godfather stuff, and I didn't get Godfather. I got, I don't know, Thor: The Dark World.
I was going to guess Robot Jocks.
No, I'm not going to go that far. But this was unnecessary. I understand it was an answer. We got to deal with the source wall thing and all this other crap. But this really just felt like an old Marvel team-up book from the 70s and 80s. It didn't really have any major impact except maybe to sell some toys and show that sometimes our heroes have to work with our villains or some shit like that. It was empty.
Okay. Joanna, what have you got for us here?
Well, I think that in theory it would have worked if they would have clarified a lot more plot points. It seemed like they wanted to go about 7 different ways with this, and they didn't. They set things up that were never used again, and then they never really clarified, okay, what these Titans are,
Yeah.
And that, to me, makes them less intimidating. Like, if you know more about them, okay, maybe I'll be legitimately concerned. But it just felt like a half put together team up, like Casey was saying. I would have liked to see more participation, equal participation from all the members, because there's 1 or 2 that had speaking lines, and then the rest are kind of standing in the background. That felt unbalanced to me, and I'm always the type that in a scene with lots of people, at least give some of them an active role instead of just standing there. I like the artwork, well, for half of it, but I'm having a hard time coming up with a number because where the plot failed, the artwork was all right. It wasn't over the top. I would say maybe a 5 for me.
Okay.
I want to make a quick addendum, and this is because of my own personal taste. I appreciate great superhero costume design, and the artists had plenty of opportunities to at least give us 1 or 2 costumes out of all these people they had to completely redesign that would stand out and look cool. None of them look cool. Not a single one of these would be something I would be like, oh, I want an action figure of that. They all just fell flat.
Well, to me, I liked Wonder Woman's design, but I'm a Wonder Woman fan, so maybe
There
that's a
you
little
go.
bit of bias.
A little bit.
But
But if you
it
didn't
wasn't
have that bias,
much different.
Yeah,
Like,
I
it was her costume all blacked out, black and silver.
It was purple.
I would have liked to have... Oh, okay, well, some of the frames look black.
Well, that tells you how
I know the
memorable it
frame we
was.
talked about. There is one frame where it looks really cool. It's got kind of a Donna Troy kind of silver and black
Right.
thing going on. but that's the only frame you get like that. After that, it just turns to this purple fuchsia mess.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was supposed to be lighting. I don't know. It was weird. I would have liked to see more consistency with the coloring a little bit, and they could have gone so much more detailed. They could have given her something new. They could have, I don't know, made like an asymmetrical skirt or something less iconic. They, like you said, they could have gone so many different ways. I mean, I liked the all red cyborg. That was pretty cool. But it just seemed like they missed a big opportunity here.
You know what? I've spent a little while struggling with this because I like certain things, but I didn't like a lot more things about it. I do agree with you guys. It felt like they had an opportunity for a very big story here, but they tried to condense it down to 4 issues, either because of editorial problems and all the other stories coming out, or for some reason Snyder's pitch came through, or he was offered this gig, and he just couldn't get the space he needed to tell the story. That being said, Snyder is turning into one of my least favorite writers of big event books. This is the second or third event of his I've read that started off pretty strong, but midway through turned into this jumble mess, and by the time the end came around, it felt more like sweet release to have the end rather than my desire to have any sort of continuation as to whatever in the hell's going on here.
Right.
He had a bloated cast, and you didn't really need half the characters on it. You could have told this in a much tighter time frame by removing half of these characters. Like Joanna said, you had a group of villains in the Omega Titans who were ill-defined, and even their solution to the problem didn't really feel like a solution to the problem. It felt more like kicking the can down a road to a point where hopefully none of them are alive to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, as far as artistically, yeah, the art was fine, but nobody actually gave the artist, under the circumstance where Brainiac is given all these characters new costumes for this purpose, and he never really had the opportunity to make anything new. He had to adapt various costumes for this purpose instead of creating something that could stand on its own, even if it was only within the confines of these 4 issues.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of anything on a lantern that looks new. And Sinestro's costume, boring.
Yeah.
Boring as hell.
And to me, almost the biggest failure of this book wasn't in its execution so much as Snyder's writing. Unfortunately, he had to lean on the typical characters who solved the problems. You know, Batman thought it through after Brainiac was destroyed. Superman had to lift everything. Wonder Woman had to inspire everybody, and other characters just fit within their normal archetypes. For a story that started out with you have to change your tactics, the tactics were pretty much the same.
Yeah, the exact same formula. Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was one of those cases where when I first read it, I was okay with it, but now that I've had to sit down and actually ruminate and put my brain into it, I think this is actually much worse than I thought it was. So I'm going to give it a 5. It's not quite as bad as the Punisher War Machine we read last week, but it really isn't that much better.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, next week we are off for Comic-Con. There will not be a new episode next week. I apologize to the people who are listening, but I just am not going to rush back from Comic-Con to immediately talk to you guys because all you're going to hear is Jeremy narcoleptic. So, while we have the time off, does anyone have anything they'd like to recommend or anything they wanted to look into?
Yeah, but it's old, and I'm a bit of a fanboy about it, so I don't know if I can be biased enough.
Okay.
And I was thinking about the beginning of Dark Horse's Buffy series.
Ooh, I'm all for this.
Yes, which will be like the first 4 or 6 issues of Buffy season 8.
Okay. Would you like to call it 4? I say that not because we don't have time to read it, but just because I'm sure everybody needs a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I got no
Sure.
problem with that.
Okay.
I'm actually looking up an alternative for that, just in case.
I have an alternative, but it is a big piece of reading. I'd like to get to that after we get back.
Oh, yeah, what do you got?
I have The Switch.
What's
You know,
that?
nothing about that has really drawn me to it, but then again, I haven't read it enough to give it any kind of critical analysis.
Well, it's an independent story. It's a single graphic novel story about a villainess in her particular universe who gets so tired of the treatment she gets from her peers and the team of villains she's on that she moonlights as a superhero.
Huh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hence the name.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
Kickstarter project. It was a creator-owned graphic novel, so I was extremely curious about it.
Maybe I'm just getting confused with a DC property that sound much this not premise wise, but the name of the title.
It could be, but I got my hands on the graphic novel and I flipped through it, but I haven't read it yet.
Hey, what's that one new DC title that has people thinking Spider-Man?
That would be Sideways.
That's what I'm thinking of when you said Switch.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. So we can
yeah.
do like the first 4 issues of Buffy season 8 next in a couple weeks. I have no truck with that whatsoever. I just wanted to keep the Switch on everybody's list because, like I said, it's a single graphic novel story, but it's like 180 some odd pages.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and this will give me a reason to get my Buffy trade paperback back from my friend.
All right.
Yeah, I have all the omnibus for Buffy.
Do you the library editions or?
Yeah.
I do too.
All right.
Nice.
Well, okay, fanboys, it's been long enough, or fanboys and fangirls, but
Fan people?
don't start with me. Do not start with me. All right, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully, by the time we get back, we'll have all those lawn gnomes destroyed. Jeez, I really am in dire straits. Thank you very much. Have a great one. I am Jeremy.
I'm Joanna.
Casey.
Thank you very much. Have a great one, everybody, and see you at Comic-Con.